In this video, we shall take a look at some of the most disastrous truck engines in history. From poor performance to failing completely, here are the 10 most horrific truck engines to ever exist. Were you under the misconception that trucks last forever? If so, the engines were the most challenging part of these vehicles. Let's go through them and see which ones still made the cut and what went wrong with them. Number 1. Ford 332 V8, 1961 to 1967. The V8 Ford 332, produced in the 1960s to be used for trucks, was, as many owners describe, a disaster. The truck seemed to perform perfectly in terms of reliability, but over time, it began to overheat, resulting in multiple engine failures. This severe flaw was overlooked and led the engine to establish a bad reputation. Unfortunately, this problem arose at a time when the truck was under heavy loads or undergoing a long haul, which further exacerbated this issue and made this more of a widespread mechanic issue among truck owners. Speaking of fuel economy, the 332 had an alarming tendency to consume upwards of gas, which meant it was never a preferred option for individuals looking for robust construction. It also meant truckers hoping to use this engine had to endure high maintenance costs due to its poor durability. The engine was designed with a cooling system which was unable to cater to the power output of the engine, which left several components cracked, warped, or even removed completely. Even with proper, during-period maintenance, the engine never performed up to the expectations, which left multiple service vehicle-like truck owners incredibly frustrated. Number 2. Chevy 29, 2-inline-6, 1960 to 1979. The inline-6 Chevy 292 was meant to be a robust engine for trucks, but quickly gained a reputation of being weak and not very reliable. Though it was very durable, the Chevy 292 engine did not have sufficient power supporting its growing popularity throughout the late 1960s and 1970s. The engine was unable to generate sufficient torque to be used in trucks, which made it hard for people using their trucks for tough working conditions to use it and depending on it. The radiator's failure to operate made the trucks, particularly the older ones, incapable of working in intense conditions. As the inline-6 came with high accelerations, it made the engine heads warp as well as cause other issues which proved to be very annoying for the owners. Likewise, the carburetor cleaning mechanisms would fail, creating a substantial need to fix them, which badly hampered the fuel systems of the models which got built post-1976. Ultimately, due to all these issues coupled with a rough fuel system constructed, made the engines highly difficult to maintain. Due to truck drivers being more inclined to use powerful V8 engines, the 292 declined in popularity during its long production period. The drivers who decided that the 292 was the best fit for them soon realized that it was not designed to withstand the demanding requirements of everyday truck operations. Number 3. Dodge 413 V8, 1962 to 1965. The Dodge 413 V8 engine, manufactured between 1962 and 1965. 1965 was hailed as an engine capable of high performance, but it had gained notoriety even before it was put into production. The engine was initially envisioned to be fitted for heavy-duty trucks, but it scored negative in many crucial areas. There was a tendency of this engine to have lifter problems, which even caused regular rough idling and ticking noise, which made it less than pleasant for truck owners. The economical burnt fuel for the 413 V8 was astonishingly subpar. As fuel prices started to rise, truckers began to realize the inefficiency of this engine, and it quickly became clear that it was not suitable for the job. Not only fuel economy, but the engine had other serious problems as well. For example, the piston slap problem was common, which led to subpar engine performance and noise. But the most cost-inefficient problem was related to the cooling system of the engine, as it was not able to match the amount of power output the engine was able to produce, so the truck owners had to constantly repair it if they wanted to switch back to using it. Consequently, the 413 V8 gained a reputation as a lackluster performer that was extremely prone to failure, especially amongst those who required a rugged and durable engine for heavy-duty applications. Number 4. Ford 360 V8, 1968 to 1978. The Ford 360 VR8, introduced in the mid-1970s, was considered a truck middle-level engine, but earned its reputation from being the worst of the worst due to its massive shortcomings. Ford 360V8 roughly seemed to give an equal amount of power and efficiency to the vehicle, but it quickly became evident that this engine could not handle heavy-duty truck applications. One of the serious shortcomings of the engine is fuel consumption. The gas-consumed Ford 360V8 came to focus in the major concern for fleet owners and drivers, as it rated very low on efficiency, cutting long usage or difficult work environments. 360V8 had the issue of overheating as well. To describe being rugged as the design requirement, it has a horrid cooling system, which results in overheating even for the most basic of loads. It caused stronger damage to the engine in the sense of warped cylinder heads, cracked blocks, and other serious engine problems. In addition to that, there was, and still is, a history regarding the Ford 360V8 of leaking oil. Adding onto the problems, the overheating and leaky oil lead to early engine oil burning. Not only repairing and changing parts got expensive, but it left everyone involved with the devices frustrated. Even though it was utilized in Ford trucks for more than 10 years, the 360V8 never became the best engine among its competitors. Many drivers were unsatisfied with its performance, and due to its costly maintenance, sought for better engines. Number 5. Chevy 454 V8, 1970 to 1990. The Chevy 454 V8 was an extremely potent engine that ran through the 1970s and 1990s, but it came with a few noticeable drawbacks that will be highlighted. This engine was an absolute beast when it came to handling hefty loads and pulling. However, when it came to being cost-effective or fuel-efficient, the money spent primarily went down the drain. As an example of this, one of the biggest concerns that came from the 454 V8 regarding its design was its fuel consumption, which was excessive to say the least. As a result, it makes for a poor choice when paired against the backdrop of long-haul driving. Fuel evaporation was not the only problem, too. That was a detriment to this vehicle. The 454 V8 came with its own set of complications that are equally difficult to deal with. More precisely, intake manifold gaskets, which were prone to failing. In addition, cracked exhaust manifolds that lead to fuel inefficiency were also a common problem. The vehicle's fuel inefficiency, paired alongside its raw power, lead to a shaky future for the vehicle, and in due time made it incredibly difficult to maintain. Despite it being a great option for truckers requiring strong towing capacity, the 454's deficient fuel consumption, mechanical issues along with high upkeep costs prevented it being an efficient workhorse. Multiple people believe that the Chevy 454 V8 is more of an annoyance than a performance-enhancing engine. Before we move on to the next one in the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks to all of you who do. Number 6. Ford 6.0-liter Power Stroke, 2003 to 2007. Ford introduced the 6.0-liter Power Stroke diesel engine in the early 2000s, and it was seen as a major development for diesel trucks in terms of its strength and efficiency. What started out as a great promise for the truck owners turned into a huge disappointment. One of the most major problems with the 6.0-liter Power Stroke was its propensity for suffering severe engine damage because of various design flaws. One such flaw was the EGF's EGR coolers, exhaust gas recirculation cooler, failure, which resulted in leaks of the coolant, and at times it even mixed with the oil, damaging the engine. The head studs also suffered from a design flaw. They were overpowered by the engine and were not capable to withstand its pressure, which caused the head gaskets to fail, and coolant seeped out, resulting in an engine with significantly decreased energy output. These problems were aggravated due to the fuel injectors, which tended to malfunction at an early stage and were a cause of poor fuel efficiency, rough idling, and a decrease in overall engine performance. Ford's 6.0-liter Power Stroke offered from an image of getting the body stuck on the roadside with costly repairs and breakdowns. It had amazing torque and pulling power, but with an unreliable Power Stroke was amongst the most unreliable diesel engines in its time. Number 7. Chevy 5.7-liter V8, 1994 to 2003. The Chevy 5.7-liter V8, also referred to as the LT1, hit the market back in the early 90s and was an undisputed beast of an engine fitting full-size Chevy trucks. At first, it received a lot of appreciation due to its optimal performance and its balance between power and fuel usage. However, soon after it became infamous after the entire car industry found a flaw which would haunt its reputation. For the 5.7-liter V8, the most prevalent disaster was the intake manifold gasket, which had much probability of failing. When these gaskets failed, coolant seeped out, which led to excessive engine overheating, misfires, and in some cases, complete engine failure. Apart from displacement issues, fuel delivery and the ignition system were also at fault for the 5.7-liter V8's rough idling and acceleration issues. These problems were rather irritating for the everyday users, who had to bring their cars for repairs, spending substantial amount of money, as each performance was different, which rather made it difficult to get good acceleration. Additionally, the engine was not capable of moving substantial weight, thus making towing capacity an issue. So for drivers looking for heavy-duty performing trucks, this was not the best option. Although the power of the engine is okay, the 5.7-liter V8 engine was never that dependable and reliable in the long run. The constant need for repairing and ineffectiveness made many owners of the Chevy truck look for better options. And by the start of the 2000s, the engine had already lost much of its appeal as an aftermarket option. Number 8. Chrysler 3.7-liter V6, 2002 to 2007. The Chrysler 3.7-liter V6 engine, used between 2002 and 2007 in models such as the Dodge and Jeep, was marketed as a good engine for mid-sized trucks. But within some time, the owners were able to tell that it wasn't the best choice. In comparison to the 3.7-liter V6 that had decent paper performance, real-world results were lukewarm. The most serious drawback this engine had was its towing and hauling power. Advertised as an engine that could do hard work, the 3.7-liter V6 didn't perform well in terms of handling heavy loads along with the power expectations associated with a truck of this type. Amidst a plethora of issues faced by this specific engine, its failure to perform effectively when towing was one of the most concerning. The fuel consumption of this engine provided very poor efficiency, particularly in combination with the performance it provided. Such engines, especially in combination, increased the overall cost of operations, which proved to be a hassle for users who worked for long hours or required the use of these trucks for longer intervals of time. Yet the most serious problem with the 3.7-liter V6 engine was not about its power and its fuel efficiency, but rather its probability of mechanical failure. Components such as timing chains and valve lifters in the engine had a high failure rate. If these problems were not addressed in a timely manner, potential damage to the engine could occur, and even if they were, they could be costly to fix. It became a reliable and costly option, owing to the frequent repairs that owners had to contend with. As such, for many truck owners, the 3.7-liter V6 became unreasonably expensive and insufferably unreliable. Number 9. Dodge 383 V8, 1966 to 1971. From 1966 to 1971, Dodge produced their V8 383 with muscle cars and heavy trucks in mind. Despite meeting its original intentions of being made for high-performance sports cars and vehicles, the V8 engine proved unreliable. Although delivering more than enough horsepower, it was an absolute fuel guzzler, far beyond the capacity most truck drivers were ready to accept. Quality was especially highlighted given the rising cost of petrol, but during the time the V8 engine was released, many truck drivers were forced to pay absurd amounts at gas stations, which diminished their experience with the vehicle. Performance-wise, the V8 engine wasn't exceptional either. The 383 V8 had a reputation for poor drivability in more demanding scenarios and was notorious for being a better fit for moderate driving conditions. Having difficulty controlling and sustaining the internal temperature of the engine only made the equation harsher over time. If left unchecked, the risk of warping the heads of the cylinder and cracking the block of the engine became commonplace as well, all of which only exacerbated the internal frustrations felt. In addition to overheating and excessive fuel use, the 383 V8 was prone to mechanical issues. The engine's pistons and lifters, and even the valve seals, developed issues for a number of owners. Such components typically failed early, resulting in significant costs and lengthy downtimes. For a reliable truck, the 383 V8 managed to be a cause of great annoyance for a large number of Dodge truck owners, forever destroying the perception of this engine as something dependable. Number 10. Toyota 4.7-liter V8, 2000 to 2007. Toyota Ford is well known for reliable engineering and design, but it turned out there are a few design flaws in the very reliable 4.7-liter V8 engine, which is found in vehicles such as Sequoia and Land Cruiser. For example, there was a great amount of dissatisfaction among truck owners regarding the engine's weak towing power capability of the 4.7-liter. It is true that the engine had a decent amount of power. However, it did not reach the level that other competitor oils saw in the V8 alongside competitors providing more sports of V8, such as towing and comfortable hauling of heavy loads. This meant that the truck was less attractive to clients that needed a heavy-duty truck that could do toting and building work for them. However, the biggest design flaw of the 4.7-liter resulting in it being discontinued is the sludge accumulation problem. Oil gunk was found in the engine which clogged the oil passages, which ultimately led to less oil flow, which increased the temperature of the engine. If the accumulation of sludge was not dealt with timely, it resulted in engine wear, overheating, and even failure. Moreover, the problem was made worse as many owners did not know that there was a sludge problem, exacerbating the issue even further. The 4.7-liter V8 engine was oil sludge heavy and required a lot of repairs, resulting in its upkeep being more expensive than expected. The repairs were expensive due to the engine being a sludge buildup, which made many owners lose their faith in the engine. But if the engine is taken care of, it can last a long time. So this concludes our list of the top 10 worst truck engines in history. They were deemed inefficient in fuel consumption, and even went as far as breaking down completely even after being serviced. They were said to be workhorses but were unable to meet the demand of doing heavy-duty tasks. Remember, if you are restoring a classic or trying to buy a new one, know specifically which engines to stay away from. Thank you for watching, and remember, what is under the hood is what matters when it comes to trucks.